Thanks for joining us for Inside Franklin Marshall Wrestling. I'm Brad Weltman here for GoDiplomats.com, joined by Franklin Marshall head wrestling coach Mike Rogers, and we've got special guest Brandon Giovanetti here with us today. So guys, thanks a lot for taking time out to sit down here with us.
Yep.
Team faced another difficult opponent, another conference opponent last week in Drexel. 6 of the matchups were returned by decision. A lot of them were really close. I mean, Scott Stevens, he looked like he had the match in hand. He suffered a takedown with just 3 seconds left and was dealt a 7-6 loss. Antonio Paluzzi, he had a takedown in the third to give himself the lead, but he was rode out in the second. That really came back to haunt him. Lost on riding time points, 3-2. So just talk about some of those close decisions from Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, those were the matches that we were hoping to win. It just came down to really, and we talked about this as a team, and just toughness. They out-toughed us, and I think at Princeton we went out there and we showed that we were tougher physically. The points didn't add up, but we were at least out there physically tough. This weekend or the past weekend, I think we didn't show that for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. Something we addressed, but I mean, those ones are close matches. We like to see those. Pelusi's right there with the best guy. He did that same thing with the Harvard kid. Now with the Drexel kid, he's doing what we call the hardest part, is taking those big guys down. But he got to get off the bottom. He's giving up riding time, and not getting off the bottom is costing him matches. So. We're definitely addressing those issues, but we can't be giving up takedowns late in periods. Even at 125, I think we gave up 2 takedowns with 3 or 4 seconds left in each period. Those are match killers because you can't recover from that. You give up a takedown with 3 seconds left. There's no time to get out or escape. And I think Scott just kind of relaxed towards the end of the match, which is uncharacteristic of him. He's a senior. He's been around, but sometimes there's veterans make. Mistakes too. So I think he's going to learn from it. We're probably going to give him this weekend off, give him a little bit of rest. He's been banged up a little bit. I give him a lot of credit. He's been stepping in the lineup, fighting through some injuries and not being 100% and still going out there and performing as best he can. So we're going to give Danny Martaccio, I think, a go at 133. And those two still have to kind of sort it out. So we'll give Danny a chance to kind of get back in there. All the other ones, we definitely didn't, some of them were outclassed, some of them we just got outfought. And as a team, we all addressed it. We all accept responsibility for that. Hopefully going out this weekend, we're going to have a different performance.
So for the third straight week, Rick Durso went into the final period tied and on top. For the third straight week, he rode out his conference opponent. So just kind of talk a little bit about what makes Rick so good on top.
Really, it's an attitude. It's a mindset. He just refuses to be held down. He refuses to let guys up. There's nothing. Rick is just a really good athlete. He has a lot of good. He's flexible. He can put himself in and out of a lot of different positions. But more than that, I think it's his mentality, his mindset. Top and bottom is just a toughness, a meanness. You have to have that heart to not let a guy out and to ride a guy down, keep a guy down constantly. That's one of the hardest things in wrestling to do. Guy comes up, you just keep putting him back down. It's a lot of work. And same thing on bottom. He refuses to get rode out. So we like to see him open up on his feet a little bit more. But guys are being very cagey with him. They're trying to shut him down on his feet because they know that's where he's dangerous. But a champion, a guy like Rick, he finds another way to win. He's doing it, getting off the bottom, getting reversals, and riding guys down and getting riding time. And he's just not trying to ride guys. He's looking to turn them too. So it's not just he's hanging on. He's riding them. He's trying to turn them, which is again a good. A good dynamic I like to see from Rick. He wasn't doing that earlier in the season. He was not putting the effort on top to ride guys, and now it's going to put a lot of fear in guys. They're going to have to make a decision. In the conference, do they go down? Do they stay on their feet? And then they're going to have to start wrestling him a little bit more. If they're not going to go down, they're going to have to come after him and try to take him down, which is where he's dangerous too. His defense is great. So he's right on pace. The only thing we like to see is open up a little bit more. But all 3 of those matches, he's won against good guys. That kid was a 2-time qualifier in round of 12 last year, and so they're tough kids that he's wrestling.
Is there a concern that conference opponents are going to start staying away from the bottom when they have the choice like that against him? Or, is that something you and your coaching staff has talked about, like planning to make any adjustments?
You can't really adjust if they don't take down. They want to stay on their feet. But that's a dangerous game to play too, because now if they don't take down and they're not taking Rick down and Rick's getting out, they're still down by 1. So they got to score somewhere. And if they're not going to take down, they're going to have to wrestle him a little bit more aggressively on his feet. So whatever they decide to do, there's nothing that they can do that Rick hasn't seen, whether they take neutral, they don't take down or whatever. I don't think anything's going to rattle him. As a coach, looking at the other end of it, do you go down? I don't know, because if you don't go down, you haven't taken them down. What do you do? So it's a good situation for him to have. He's in a driver's seat. Whatever they decide to do, we're not changing what we're doing. If he takes you down, he's going to ride you out either too. So it makes it dangerous. So if you take a bad shot, he gets on top. He's on top of you anyway. So.
Yeah. Then Brandon, looking at this year, you had a lot of competition earlier half of the season, wrestled in a lot of tournaments. And then, this last half of the season with focusing more on duels, you haven't gotten onto the mat as much. Just talk a little bit about that transition and kind of like how your focus transitions to this last half of the year.
Yeah, sure. I think especially in the beginning of the year, it's easy to stay motivated and to, prepare for like the open tournaments that we go to and stuff. But towards the second half of the season, it's a long 6-month season, so it drags on a little bit and it's hard to stay motivated. So really for me, it was more about thinking about the next season, going into the postseason when I'm done competing. So I think especially there, you got to try and stay motivated and finish out the year strong, and then go into next year.
Your senior season is rapidly coming to a close here. What have been some of your kind of favorite memories of the wrestling team?
I mean, just the whole team in general. I love all the guys on the team, and we've had a lot of good times together, and we go through the highs and lows together. We're competing, we're going through the grind of practice, and just the whole experience in general, I think, is just it's been a great experience, and we get to bond as a team, and just that experience.
Yeah, wrestling's been a part of your life since you were 6 years old. Your dad wrestled at Widener in college. How big of an influence was he on you, on getting you into the sport, and how big of an influence has he been on you throughout your career?
He definitely got me into the sport young. He always pushed for it, and ever since I've been doing it when I was little, I fell in love with it, and my dad has always pushed for me to try and be successful on and off the mat. So he's definitely been a big influence in my life. And he's one of the big reasons I came here and that I continue to wrestle in college and throughout high school and all that.
And you're an economics major. What are your plans after graduation?
Still a little bit hazy, like a lot of other guys, I think. But I live around New York City, so I want to stay local, maybe try and find a job there around Philadelphia or something, but hopefully get into the finance industry or something like that, like a lot of the upperclassmen did. So.
And how do you think your time on the team is going to help you, in your future and as you transition to life after college?
Well, I think the great thing about this sport, it teaches you so many other things than just being an athlete and being a wrestler. It's great to compete and all, but at the same time, being a wrestler, you gain so many more skills like self-discipline and just a stronger mentality about everything. And I think that those are the kind of things you're going to hang on to for the rest of your life and that you're going to be able to use once you get out of here.
Great, Brandon. Thanks a lot for the insight.
Sure.
Mike, let's look ahead to this Saturday. It's your final road match of the regular season. Team travels to George Mason to take on the Patriots. What's kind of the scouting report on them?
I think we match up well. In terms of each weight class, I think I think we're heavily favored at 41. They're heavily favored at a few other weight classes, but I think it's definitely a dual meet within our grasp. If we all wrestle the way we can and we should. And I know it sounds repetitive, but we just want to see guys go out there and perform and be aggressive, which we did 2 weeks ago against Princeton. We didn't do it last week against Drexel. We want to bring that back against George Mason and finishing off with Millersville and Sacred Heart. That we're just going to go out there and push the pace and clean up our mistakes, not giving up points late in the period, scoring early into the matches, building leads, and if we get behind, not letting things fall apart. And that's, I think, something that we've have an issue with sometimes when the individual matches start to kind of get away from our guys. once one wheel comes off, they all come off, and they dig a bigger hole. We just got to learn how to get 1 point back at a time, and if we do that, I honestly believe our third period is really good. And if we put ourselves in a position where the third period, it's a close match, I think we're going to be okay. So we just got to avoid those big mistakes, going to our backs and giving up big points early. And if we do that, I think it's going to be an exciting dual meet. And regardless, we're looking for just our guys just performing and clean up the small mistakes, fine-tuning those things we're working on towards the end of the last 2 weeks before we go into postseason.
Guys, thanks for being here. Good luck against George Mason.
Thanks.
And thank you for tuning in. Be sure to join us here next week when we recap that George Mason match and look ahead to 2 home duels against Millersville and Sacred Heart.